Running an effective workshop is essential in our everyday activities. Being able to have your key stakeholders come together, discuss a topic, and gain consensus is so important for the work we do. In a recent session I had with a team of business analysts, we looked at what are the key components of running an effective workshop and what will they do to make sure that the workshop they run was effective, insightful, and delivered value for all the stakeholders that attended. Looking at the workshops, being able to plan, prepare, conduct, and follow up is so essential for running such effective workshops. So to start off, let's take a look at planning. Planning for the workshop. In terms of planning for the workshop, you want to identify your potential stakeholders that would attend the workshop. And whilst you've identified the potential stakeholders, it takes us into the realm of stakeholder engagement. We want to identify the stakeholders. We want to analyze the stakeholders with an interest and power grid so we know how much interest and how much power they have to influence the entire delivery of that particular project, or more positively, how they want to support that particular initiative. So having identified your stakeholders, analyze them, you want to create engagement plans for them before the workshop, during the workshop, and after the workshop. So knowing those key stakeholders are essential, and are they able to make decisions when they attend. So engaging these key stakeholders throughout the stages of planning, preparing, and conducting and having a follow-up for the workshop is so essential. It's not a one-time activity of just defining the required stakeholders. It's going to be cutting across each stage of your workshop, when planning, when preparing, conducting the workshops effectively, and then having a clear follow-up to assign roles, responsibilities, and key actions for all those who have attended. Next, you check the availability and then you plan the meeting. Based on the availability, you are able to start thinking through what should be the key items on your agenda. Once you start identifying the key items on your agenda, you can now assess how much time is needed to run the workshop effectively. How much time is needed so that when they attend, these stakeholders can contribute to your workshop. Now you move to the next stage of plan to prepare for the workshop. What are the key items that I need in my workshop? You can use a mind map. A mind map allows you to start thinking things through openly, and then you can organize those items clearly for the day of the workshop. What contents do I need? What documents do I need? What type of information should I be sharing? How do I intend to engage with the stakeholders? So planning to prepare for the workshop using the mind map gets you more ready for the session. Then you decide if it's an in-person or online. If it's in-person, it requires more planning because now you have to make sure the venue is available, it's suitable, it's got all the equipment needed, and you've got, importantly, Wi-Fi that each person who attends might need a Wi-Fi if it's going to be an in-person. If it's in the office, we already know that everyone will be connected, so that's okay. If it's an out-of-office place, we need to ensure that all the key prerequisites and requirements and equipments have been put in place for the day of the workshop, such as having marker pens, a board to write on, and post-its. If you get to a venue and people want to have a conversation and they don't have all this stationery, then you run a risk of not running an effective workshop. If it's going to be a large number of people, then you could find a BA to help you scribe the meeting. Having a facilitator yourself and having a scribe helps you focus. Doing both in a workshop that has more than 5 or 6 people would be very tedious, and it could lead to the stakeholders or the attendees having conversations that are not relevant, because you'll be spending your time scribbling, and you might end up scribbling something that you don't remember. If you're recording as well, it might not be a perfect recording session because you could have people talking over each other. So find a colleague who can help you scribe the workshop effectively. In terms of the venue, arrange for the physical resources and equipments that are needed to help run this particular workshop. Having these resources of a flip chart, refreshment, pens, marker pens ready for the day sets you ready, and it gives the stakeholders more assurance that you've prepared very well enough to have them attend this particular workshop. So identify any potential documents that you will share to make the session fruitful. Decide the format of the breakout rooms. Is there going to be round robins? Are there any personal dynamics to be taken into consideration? And from your key stakeholder analysis, who are the key stakeholders that need to make a decision on your workshop? Make sure they attend. Next, let's move to the preparation stage. In the preparation stage, we can use Copilot. It allows you to generate ideas and increases your productivity. So if it says decide on agenda and send meeting agenda in advance, with Copilot, you can decide, I've got a meeting coming up, I need an agenda. So I could go to Copilot and say, create an agenda for a meeting on the 10th of December 2022 on Copilot productivity. The meeting will run from 8:30 to 5 p.m. Being able to give it enough prompts allows it to be more specific, and it enables you to have a structure that you can start making changes to. Ensure there are enough breaks to keep attendees energized and ready for each breakout session. So Copilot looks at the prompts you've offered and it starts creating an agenda for you. And with that particular agenda, you now know that you've got something ready for the day. With this template created, you can print it out and start making the necessary changes to suit your context. You don't want to grab it as it is and then send it to your attendees. Make sure it's much more related to your context. I could say update it for a bank that has implemented Copilot for 1 year and are looking at improving and driving productivity and communication on the use of Copilot. So I am refining my agenda, and it says absolutely. So it's worked something out for me. I could have it as a starter and always go back to it. So with Copilot, I've been able to create an agenda that I can start working. And share with my key stakeholders. I could now attach it to a meeting invite and also look at any useful documentation that I should share. So I could go back and say, recommend useful documentations to share for bank attendees. Yeah. So it's going to look at some of the useful documentations that I could share to help all the attendees, and this makes it much more relevant for my attendees. So I've got some documentation and I'm going to share some documentation. What about videos? I really want to share some videos. Add videos for sharing based on the above. So creating prompts, asking it questions allows it to look at the large volume of information, and it will share so many informations that you can start using. Yeah. So now that I've got the videos, I am almost ready. And if there are any documents that needs to be shared, user story, process maps, I will share them as well. If there's a strategic document, I'll share that as well. And this would ensure that anyone attending to the session is well prepared. I could go back to Copilot again and say, hey, thanks. Be nice to Copilot, because when you're nice to Copilot, it helps generate more great and insightful information. So generate 20 guiding open questions for the workshop. Hooray! Copilot has started generating key questions that I could take into the workshop. What excites you most about the potential of AI in our industry? How has using Copilot impacted your day-to-day activities? Then I'll say generate 10 poll questions I could share to engage attendees on the general use of Copilot. So how often do you use Copilot in your daily tasks? Which feature of Copilot do you find most beneficial? How would you rate the overall user friendliness of Copilot? It's so great that if I have this information, I could say, what form of presentation can I present the output of the data and share an example? Yeah. So it goes away. I can present it in slide deck. I can have an interactive dashboard using Tableau or Power BI, and I can also use an infographic. Yeah, and it's already started creating a PowerPoint for me, which is good. So I could say, produce an outline of a PowerPoint that I could add to the session. So Copilot is a good tool to enable your productivity as you prepare and plan for the workshop. Yeah. Now, what about on the day? Now that we've got everything ready, what could we be doing to conduct the workshop much more effectively? So you need to lead the workshop as a leader. And the only way you can lead the workshop effectively is by planning and preparing for the workshop. If you plan and you prepare, you know the workshop intent inside out, and you are able to engage stakeholders. So one thing that I could ask Copilot to do for me is, based on the above, generate an opening speech with humor and questions that will kick off the conversation. Yep. So, welcome to our Copilot Productivity Improvement Workshop. I am delighted to see many bright and caffeinated faces this morning. For those who are not quiet yet, don't worry. We have more coffee for the day. A bit of humor. We are here today to dive into the exciting world of Copilot and how we can use it to boost our productivity and streamline our process. It's been a year since we implemented Copilot, and while I hope it hasn't started demanding a raise, I do believe we've seen more remarkable improvement. Today we are going to reflect on our journey, so you've got something a bit engaging and enticing, and you don't have to spend days and nights trying to produce something that would engage your audience. You've got Copilot setting the scene, and you can make the necessary changes. At the very end, it says, feel free to share your thoughts, and let's make today a productive and enjoyable learning experience. Awesome. That's what Copilot can help us with. So we could come back to our planning. We've got all the information needed. What are the expectations I could set after this? What expectations could I set for the workshop? Generate 10 to start. So, active participation, openness to learning, respectful interactions, practical applications, feedback and collaborations, breaks for recharging. These are essential to help make sure that we set the scene ready to go into our workshop session. Yeah. Make sure all attendees are engaged. Make sure you stick to the agenda that you finally updated, refined with the help of Copilot. Stick to the time. Time is so important. I have sessions where I've gone above the time by 5 minutes, and that hasn't gone well. So stick to the time, and you would not have stakeholders have a very harsh feedback for your session. So if you stick to the time, stakeholders are always happy. Stick to the start time, stick to the breaks, stick to the finish time. And if there's a future session, because you've stuck to the time and you've been very consistent in engaging all the stakeholders in the workshop, in the future, your stakeholders would like to attend your workshop, because before the workshop, you shared all the necessary information. You did your preparation, you did your planning, you made sure the venue was ready, there was refreshments, you took notes and assigned key actions. If there was conflict, you managed to manage the conversations very well, and it helped you establish a standard for an effective workshop. It goes around the business if you've run a very good workshop and people would like to attend your workshop. And it goes fast around the business if the workshop wasn't up to par, because stakeholders will talk and let other people know how your workshop wasn't run well. So ensuring that you run an effective workshop is so super key. What are some of the approaches to conflict resolutions? There would be people who will be making comments. What you can do during the workshop when there are so many comments flying about is to tell them, look, we've got a parking lot for all the discussions. Yeah. If there's anything that you want to add, here is the parking lot. We will add to it respectfully so that people don't feel they've been brushed off and not been listened to. So have a parking lot area and people can come and add any extra information to your workshop. So we've looked at conducting an effective workshop. When people go into breakout rooms as well, have the breakout rooms well set, have someone who will facilitate each breakout room, have sessions with them before they start the session, and create that cohesiveness and consensus among the group. It's okay to have group dynamics. It's okay for people to have different points of view. But if you don't organize the session very well, people would walk away feeling that their time has been wasted and there has been no value received from your workshop. After conducting the workshop, you want to have a good follow-up. Quickly send meeting notes so that anyone who's attended knows what they've captured. I do recommend sending the meeting notes as soon as possible. But if you have a Copilot inserted into your Microsoft Teams, you could get Copilot listening to the meetings, recording the meetings, and then after the meeting, key actions could be summarized, key conversations summarized, and then meeting note is fired off on your behalf. Increases your productivity. You don't have to spend days and nights trying to bring everything together, which you could have been spent doing much more productive work. So Copilot is here to increase our productivity and enable us run effective meetings. It does not mean Copilot will run your meeting for you or the bots will take over everything. What it means is it's enabling you plan and being more productive and ready for the workshop. Update the wider team on the progress of the workshop. Any actions that have been assigned, send them out and use your Copilot to help you organize the session. I use Miro bots for a lot of my sessions. It's a great collaborative tool online and you can record your session. Once you record the session, you can get the notes, identify key points. With the support of Copilot, you could fire it away. So Copilot in 365 is a powerful tool for running an effective online workshop or online meeting with your stakeholders. Finally, the impacts of running workshops. There are negative impacts. If you run an ineffective workshop, it could lead to project delays. Because after that session, when people have found the workshop not being productive, it could lead to poor feedback, people not wanting to contribute. And if there are folks who've not been supporting the project, it enables them to champion their cause and it could impact your project delivery. So having an effective workshop draws in the confidence for why that particular change is needed, such as implementing Copilot and having more productivity. If there are negative impacts, it could also be leading to a missed and inadequate requirements because you didn't engage stakeholders, you didn't ask the questions, you didn't prepare, you didn't read your notes, you didn't do all the background work. Copilot is not going to do everything. You need to do more to have an effective workshop. Stakeholders could be disengaged, there'll be conflicts, unresolved disagreements, and it leads to frustration and wasted time. So if you don't plan, prepare, and conduct a highly effective workshop, your stakeholders will be very frustrated for their time wasted. But if it goes well, you have engaged stakeholders, high quality requirements, people willing to send you documents, people sending you to other key stakeholders, and there will be positive notes of head, more consensus being gained, and that could help improve your project timeline. So running an effective workshop is key to ensuring that your project meets its timelines. If there are any gaps in the process or scope, an effective workshop could help identify that, increase the transparency across the board. So what would you be doing in planning for your next workshop? Think about the steps we've used. We've talked about planning, preparing, conducting, and following up on the workshop. If there's a board you want to use for collaborating, I do recommend Miro highly, or Microsoft has a notepad that you could use for running an effective workshop. Lastly, plan, prepare, conduct, follow up on your workshops. Use Copilot to help you increase your productivity for your workshops. Thank you.